Okay, it's been a while. Well, I'm not gonna turn this into a regular channel all of a sudden and tell you guys lies, but it's been a while because I haven't really had the chance to watch a movie in between because I've been having some wonderful work to do as a new parent. So yay, yes, it's been kind of overwhelming. There's a lot of things to learn, but I think we've been doing pretty well. Me and the wife have been working really, really hard to get things, I would say, a smooth start to our first, time as a parent, I guess. And it's been going pretty well. I think we're handling it okay. There are, some things that are a little bit difficult at first, but we learn quite fast. And I think I'm kind of glad to have someone who can sort of be through, all this with me, especially being the mother and all. It's kind of overwhelming. It really takes your life away quite a bit, but hey, it is what it is. It's not easy being a parent. It's a very, very difficult choice to make, and the payoff is also something that you can only hope for because there's no guarantees. It's like probably one of the trickiest investments in life at this point in time, especially. But well, enough about life itself. Let's talk about distractions from life, which are movies. And one of the first distractions I want to talk about today is Shazam: Fury of the Gods. So I only recently got to watch this film for reasons mentioned. Yeah, and I think that this was I don't know. It was a very strange movie in a strange time, a very questionable time, a time when we don't know what the state of the DCEU is anymore. So I decided to just completely remove that thought from my mind and think that the DCEU is no longer existent. It doesn't matter. And I think that that's what Warner Brothers would like to hope for is like at first they were like, we need to catch up to Marvel. We need our own universe, and that was initially their plan. But I think at this point they're more like, we don't want to catch up with Marvel. Heck, we don't even want to do anything by ourselves. We don't want a universe because we can't handle a universe. We don't have someone who is able to act as the sole sort of mind behind all of these to sort of link everything up to create a chart and to draw a plan. They did have someone. They did have someone. They had Zack Snyder. Zack freaking Snyder, right? That guy was like one of the most revolutionary visual directors of our time, right? He had beautiful, storytelling by his visual style. He also really pushed all the characters to their limits and really made us rethink what they would be like in today's world and time, despite all the fictional and mythical abilities that they have. And they got rid of him. And now they have no one. And they realize how difficult it is to be able to get someone, even barely by the lines of Zack Snyder. And finally, well, they've got someone new. And I hope he does well. I really hope he does well because I think he also has potential. But to see how he handles a full-fledged universe is something that we have to wait and see because DC's got really powerful, really deep characters. It's not the same like Marvel, right? Marvel's characters are very surface level, very comedic. You can make jokes with anyone. But in DC, half of the characters are just serious. You can't really easily make jokes with them. You can make quips, you can make like gallows humor, I guess. But I think this is the character that they found out where they have a moment in time where they can just go all out comedy. Um, and I think that was their mistake. One of the reasons is because in Shazam: Fury of the Gods, the sort of discrepancy between the acting of Zachary Levi as Shazam and Asher Angel as Billy Batson are completely the opposite of each other. So ideally, in the comics, you have Billy Batson, who's a playful little kid who's a teenager who gets the powers of Shazam. And when he becomes Shazam, because Shazam allows him to unlock all these incredible new powers, he also unlocks the wisdom of Solomon. And therefore, he becomes more mature, more intelligent, more well timed in his decision making, and really makes him a formidable superhero. But in this one, Billy Batson, Asher Angel, is somehow more mature in terms of his persona and his acting, and becomes a complete comedic dork idiot when he turns into Shazam. It just ruined the entire film for me when you have this, ridiculous logic of how a kid, Billy Batson, who is already written in the comics, for no good reason, becomes a more stupid version of himself when he becomes a superhero. So this kind of persona is carried throughout the film, and it's really off-putting. And I think in this movie we saw more of the other characters brought into the light. And I think that there was good balance between showing all the other different characters. There were some of them they didn't know how to quite use because now they have too many characters. So Freddie Freeman, I think, played by Jack Dylan, actually had more of a role in this, sort of the second protagonist kind of role. Um, he has one of the love interests being Athena, who is actually one of the three villains in the story, who turns out to be a good villain. Like she's the villain with emotions, the villain who's able to talk to her sisters. And yeah, it's kind of strange because of the way they portray Calypso and Hespera. If you guys do know anything about mythology, Calypso is actually pretty insane, and so is Hespera, and so is Athena. They are all pretty, powerful goddesses. And yes, Athena is the most reasonable of the three, which is shown in this story as well. Sorry, Athea, not Athena, excuse me, my pronunciation. Athea is the most reasonable of the three, as is in mythology as well. Um, but it doesn't justify how Calypso and Hespera are, able to be negotiated with by normal means. There are times where the negotiation sort of, um, the weights used to negotiate make sense. And what I mean by that is there are times they manage to capture Hespera or, Calypso or Athea and Thea, and they're able to put them in positions where they have no choice but to bargain. So I like that. I like how they force those characters to be in a position where you can talk to and bargain with them. But sometimes it becomes an emotional talk where Anthea is just like, think about these people, you gotta save these people, and they're like, no, we don't, we are like gods, we can do whatever we want. And then later on they're like, maybe you're right, we have to save these people. It's not really justified because there's no real connection that Calypso Hespera has to mankind, um, or they're not brought down to the level where they're able to see that connection in mankind, or feel sorry for them, or be compassionate enough in a moment in time. And Thea, however, also has some weird shenanigans where she's able to fall in love with a human being after what 6,000 years of being alive, which is what she says. She's been around for 6,000 years, which I mean, I don't, I'm not creeped out by the whole 6,000-year-old goddess falls in love with a little kid. I think that's we're way past that now, guys. Okay, we are living in a fictional world where we have all these characters and we can do literally whatever we want with them. I don't think the ageism is a thing anymore to compare with. I think what's most important is consent in our time, because younger children are becoming more intelligent, and 6,000-year-old beings do not exist. So the fictional aspect of it, I think, is totally acceptable. Regardless, they don't do anything freaky. It's just like they just like each other, which is also strange because Anthea, being the 6,000-year-old goddess she is, I'm sure she has no reasons to like an ordinary mortal. And at first she doesn't, but is later on sort of brought into the you know kind of kind of changed. Like her mind is changed by the actions of Freddie Freeman, which I sort of like, but it feels kind of underwhelming. Like the things he does are not that impressive. They're just like he takes a bunch of punches in the face and he gets tortured a little bit, and that's it. There's nothing special that he does. He just talks a lot, he just makes quips and jokes, and he gets tortured. These are the two things he does, and she likes him. And I think that's all it takes to coax a 6,000-year-old goddess to fall in love with you. As for the other characters, who is these other three superheroes, right? Freddy, Eugene, Pedro, and Mary Bromfield. They all have their moments, I would say, but Mary Bromfield has like the most number of moments because I think also the actress is Grace Caroline, and she probably has a bigger role in the film in general. And also, she just turns into herself because she's already old enough, so she doesn't need to turn into anyone else. And the other three are really lame. They're really, really lame superheroes. They don't really have too many special things about them. I think the story didn't know how to represent them because they already have so many characters to play with. They have like a dozen characters, right, to play with. That includes the wizard, Timon Honchu. Um, yeah, they have like one dozen main characters here, so they don't really know how to use these three. And also, you must understand that you can't really show the duality between these what do you call this, one, two, three, four, five, six, seven Shazam family members. You can't show the duality because you have 14 people to have, right? So they do show some of them having similarities to the younger selves, meaning they're essentially just behaving the same as the younger selves, which totally makes sense. Darla as well, sorry, Darla as well, totally makes sense. But as for some other characters that when they become bigger, they act totally different. That part really, is a little bit strange. Um, Especially for Shazam. And also for the fact that Shazam is able to take and give his powers to people he chooses is kind of strange because if he's able to do that, he could just do that and give his powers to everyone within the dome of, like, okay, the villain creates like a dome, right, to block off the city from the real world, and she says that we're going to starve them, they're going to die in the dome. Shazam can essentially give his powers to everyone inside the dome to try because I don't know, for some reason his power is not divided when he spreads them. It's not like he gets weaker as he gives more people powers. He just retains the same amount of power throughout. And yeah, it's just weird. The writing, the choices, the power levels in this is just so random. Um, it's also a poorly written story in general. Basically, these three evil goddesses are coming to take over the world. They want to plant this world tree that is going to regrow in the real world and it's going to destroy everything. And so they were once betrayed by the wizard, and so they capture the wizard, and then they do all these things. The wizard is captured throughout this entire time, and then towards the ending, there's a big battle in the city where Shazam goes to fight them, and they really allow Shazam to shine in the last 10 minutes of the film. The first what in 2 hours, it's not really about him. He's just there. They're giving like peppered moments in time where they're telling him that hey, you need to be more responsible. You need to protect your family. And then in the last 10 minutes, he becomes Vin Diesel from Fast Furious, right? He just straight up is like, this is my family. I'm going to protect them. And then zoom, boom, he explodes. He goes in this big battle and he tries to commit suicide to protect his family, but he doesn't die, obviously, because they need another movie with him, I think. And that's pretty much it. Everything else you see in the screenshots are exactly what happened in the film. There's really nothing else to it. They have all these moments, and these are literally different points in the film, and they are all around the same place. Some of it is just in the city, as you can see, most of it is in the city, and then the rest of it is just like in the chambers of the three witches. And yeah, even the villains, I would say between the three of them, Lucy Liu, first of all, I mean, I've seen her movies. She's a pretty good actress. Grace Caroline, I've seen her movies as well. She's okay. Helen Mirren, of course, a very established actress, and I think among the three, it is quite clear that Helen Mirren definitely was the more promising of the three villains. Though I would say that Lucy Liu really did well to act as a sort of a psycho slash scary villain, Calypso, but not enough. I felt the intensity she carried was sort of off-put by her squeaky voice. She was like, "I'm gonna kill all of you." She sounded like the what's that witch from the Power Rangers that shows up? After 10,000 years, I'm free. Yeah, she sounds like that. Just essentially, she could have been the Power Rangers villain, which is what I kept thinking about. Yeah, it's kind of strange. Jimon Honchu's role also sort of diminished. They lock him up, they take away his staff, and they use the staff to sort of try to regrow the world tree on Earth. And all of a sudden, the world tree is spawning these weird, evil animals. And the Shazam family don't have their powers at the time because the villains are collecting their powers. Um, which is also something I don't understand. So if the villain's able to capture these individual Shazam children and gain their powers from them, and it powers the staff, that means that the power is also part of Shazam's power. But Shazam doesn't get weaker when he gives his powers to other people. So I don't really know how the dynamics of the. Okay, you know what? Never mind. Just forget about it. So overall, I think I would rate this movie maybe a 3 or a 4 out of 10. I would say a 3. One of the reasons because is this not a movie that you want to rewatch. There's really nothing special here. The acting of the characters are subpar. I would say most of the kid actors, actually acted better than the adult version of themselves. Um, which is strange because the adults were trying so hard to act like the children, that they were acting like children, and the children just acted more natural in that sense. Whereas they could have just acted more like their adult selves and just been superheroes, which would have made even more sense because now when they grow with their powers, they don't just grow physically, they also grow mentally. That's the whole point of Shazam's ability, right? See his body all full and well developed. That means his brain is also full and well developed, and he has also gained these years of wisdom. And the years of wisdom that Shazam gains is not like a normal human being. he's like a god, like a demigod level of power, right? So he's supposed to gain like thousands of years of wisdom, combat experience, tactical knowledge. This is literally Shazam's Wikipedia, which I think no one read before they made this film. So with the poor writing and the poor dialogues and the literal, no care whatsoever to the characters' lore, um, yeah, there's no respect given to Shazam at all, at least from the comics and from anything. So I think that this is a movie that I don't ever want to see again, at least the likes of it. This is just some reskinned version of, I don't know, some King Kong film that they try to make with a bunch of, I don't know, superheroes that they wanted to call their own. But this is not Shazam. Yeah, at least not from what I know. So that's about it. I'm gonna leave it at a two because I just don't want to upvote these kinds of films and give people the wrong idea that there's hope to actually watch out of this movie. I think this is one of the, more worse DC films. Though I must say it is probably better than the first Shazam, just because it had a bigger scale, it had more characters to work with. It's just that it didn't really have good writing in the first place. It didn't really understand the characters. It didn't really care enough about any of them. And I think that's the important problem that Shazam Fury of the Gods has. And it's kind of sad because if you look at the cast, they actually have a respectable, reputable cast who I think they could have used really, really well. Yeah, but they didn't know how to. And then you have all of these side characters who are just there to crack jokes. Like, let me tell you who's not funny. Um, I think Calypso and Hespera are the two least funny, and they're villains. Yeah, everyone else, including the wizard, is funny in this film. So this is essentially comedy, which is now the new tag for all the superhero films. And I mean, I get it. You want to make funny superhero films, but Shazam is not about comedy. It's never really the reason Shazam is there. Shazam is a superhero. He has quips. He makes jokes. It's like Spider-Man. Spider-Man makes jokes, but you don't make him a comedian. It's just different. And I think the writers fail to understand the disparity between the two. But anyway, that is what it is. I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.